Noon. We're going to take one item out of order. We're going to do item 5.1, nomination of board officers. Is that something, Executive Vice Chancellor? No? Okay. So, shall we start in order? The first item is President. Do I hear any nominations for President of the Board? Member Izumi?
Second.
He didn't say anything.
Oh.
Hold that thought.
Hey.
I don't really. I would nominate Debbie Malumed for office president.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Seconded.
Thank you. And
I'd like to
Member
nominate
Reed?
Scott Heimelstein.
Seconded.
Thank you. So we have two. Any others? The nominations are closed. Next is Vice President. Do I hear any nominations?
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Alice Perez.
Alice Press, thank you. And thank you. Any other nominations? The nominations are closed. The CPEC representative, do I hear any nominations?
I was trying to twist Member McDougal's arm when he consented.
Received. Any other nominations? And and we have, we'll close that nomination. And there is a CPEC alternate, sorry. Do I hear any nominations as an alternate?
I would nominate Jeff.
I'll second that.
Nomination accepted. Any other nominations? Okay, I think we have all our nominations. My understanding is we don't need to vote on this. We've accepted them, so we will get to vote in November. Let the campaigns begin. Now we are back to item 4.1. Update on, I'm sorry, we are up to item 4.2, presentation on Commission on Athletics. Vice Chancellor Barry Russell.
President Malumed, Chancellor Scott, and board members. We've had several discussions over the last year or so that have brought together all the academic issues, and in some cases the physical education issue has come to the top on several occasions. And so in having some discussions with Carlisle Carter, who you'll see is from the Commission on Athletics, we felt like it was important to have him come and give an overview of the Commission on Athletics and what that group does. And he'll explain how it fits together with the work that's being done at the community colleges and give you an update on that and allow you to ask any questions that he has. So I'm going to turn it directly over to him and I'll let him go ahead with his presentation.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Thank you, Dr. Russell. President Malumed, Chancellor Scott, and members of the board. As Dr. Russell indicated, my name is Carlisle Carter, and I'd like to give you a little brief background personally. I am entering my 6th year as the CEO and Executive Director of the California Community College Athletic Association. And up until our last board meeting, I was the Executive Director of the Commission on Athletics. Typically, when you say Commission on Athletics, you think of some governmental agency that has been assigned a certain task, and you can't pay dues and become a member of that. Well, for many years, that's the way the Commission on Athletics was operated. And whenever our teams, many of you are alumni from the California community colleges, when your teams won the Commission on Athletics state championship, you always had to explain what it was. And as soon as you mentioned community colleges, everyone understood. So a couple years ago, the membership portion of the organization was changed to something really imaginative, and that was the California Community College Athletic Association. You win the state championship, you don't have to ask what that means. At our last board meeting in June, our board of directors decided that it was time to have one name, and they're now the board of directors of the California Community College Athletic Association. So those calls that we get in our office for racehorsing and boxing and WWF hopefully will cease. Our staff has the number of the State Commission on Athletics at the ready. Just this morning, before I came over, we had a call, and I heard the lady out front say, "Oh, you need this office." So we hope to be able to eliminate that confusion. I am starting my 6th year. I immediately came from Minnesota, and they're starting winter right about now. And I was there 11 years as a commissioner of the NCAA Division III Athletic Conference there. Some great small colleges, liberal art colleges, Division III. You probably know the name if you're a fan of Golden Girls, St. Olaf College, Gustavus Adolphus, McAllister, Carleton, some outstanding academic institutions. I was there 11 years. Prior to that, I was the Director of Athletics and Recreational Sports for Penn State University and their Commonwealth campus system. I was there 9 years. I was a son of a single parent who didn't really apply himself in high school. Really didn't know what I wanted to do until a basketball coach from a 2-year college came to see me play and invited me to come and play basketball at that 2-year college. While I was there, a political science professor got a hold of me and turned the light on. And I will say that if it weren't for that experience at a 2-year college, I would not be standing here in front of you today. The reason I'm back at the 2-year level is I want to make sure that many more students are provided the same opportunity that I was provided, that the door remain open. And as I get into my report, you'll see that we have some challenges facing us, not only from the state budget situation, but also from external forces and the NCAA's academic reform movement and how that might impact our students at the 2-year college level. Now, I did provide a little packet for you, and there are some documents in there that I will refer to as we move along. So you may want to open that up. You may also find it, if you're having trouble falling asleep some night, you might want to open it up and you might be able to fall right asleep. I would like to first thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today to provide you with a very brief review and introduction into California Community College intercollegiate athletics. It's my hope that the board consider additional opportunities to come before you to provide periodic updates as you deem necessary. What I hope to be able to do this afternoon is shed some light on a program that has existed in some form at the California community colleges in excess of 80 years. In its heyday, spectators flocked to Pasadena in numbers as high as 40,000 to witness the Junior Rose Bowl. Over the years, spectator interest has waned, but the opportunities provided by offering intercollegiate athletics have continued, and approximately 27,000 men and women students participate in 23 championship sports annually. California Community College Athletics has been the conduit by which significant numbers are motivated to attend college. Many first-generation collegians attend college to pursue the opportunity to continue to engage in an activity that they love and subsequently find that athletics can provide a means to an end. Tens of thousands of student athletes have acquired athletic scholarships to four-year colleges and thereby gaining access to higher education institutions that 2 years previously would not have even been a consideration. In fact, at one of our member colleges alone, in the 2008-09 year, student athletes there acquired $1.5 million in athletic scholarships to attend four-year colleges. If you carry that out to all 104 colleges, you will quickly see how valuable intercollegiate athletics can be to families in gaining access to college education affordably. There's one document in the packet, the first one, it's the estimated probability of competing in athletics beyond high school interscholastic level. You'll note in the area of football, we've got over 1.1 million students playing high school football. As you go up the scale from high school to college and to the pros, of those 1.1 million, only 250 are drafted. So what does that mean? That means that we don't want to stifle the dreams of our students as they come to us, but we also want to shed a little dose of reality their way, and that besides the opportunity to continue to participate in their sport, they should gain an education. We have some students that come to us that are lacking in basic skills. And I don't have to tell you that one of the major missions of the California Community College is a remediation. More and more students are coming out of high schools with deficient skills, basic skills, that will allow them an opportunity to be successful at the high school level or at the college level. So you have 1.1 million high school football players, 250 get drafted. What happens to the rest? Some students that come to us, if we can get them to the AA degree level, our faculty have performed a miracle. Many have taken advantage of that and have gone on from the AA level to a bachelor's and advanced degrees. So it's incumbent upon us, our faculty, our coaches, our administrators, to ensure that when our athletic programs bring students in, we're obligated to try to turn that light on so that they know that athletics is a means to an end and not an end into itself. Many have used community colleges and community college athletics as a springboard to becoming household names in the world of sports and elsewhere in society. I'll also call attention to the second document in that packet, and it's a list of names. A list of names of notable alumni that have participated either as student athletes or as coaches. One of the prominent ones from Pasadena is Jackie Robinson. The 3C2A Hall of Fame is full of recognizable names of those that have gone on to grace the front pages of sport pages and appear as consistent icons on ESPN SportsCenter. Just this weekend, everybody knows the Cincinnati Bengal Chad Ochocinco. Okay, changed his last name to his number for some unknown reason. Both he and another outstanding wide receiver, Steve Smith, attended the same community college in California. There are a number of recognizable names that have used community college athletics here in California as a springboard to professional and sometimes collegiate and sometimes Olympic fame. The question is, would Jackie Robinson have ultimately broken Major League Baseball's color barrier if he hadn't first started at Pasadena City College and gained notice by UCLA? We'll never know that. But we do know that he was noticed and received a scholarship at UCLA. Would Bill Walsh, Joe Gibbs, John Madden, or Pete Carroll have become premier football coaches without first participating in football at California community colleges? Perhaps, I guess, the more important question is for those that aren't household names. those countless numbers that have used athletics as a driving force that has led them to earn an AA, a bachelor's, or advanced degree? What if those opportunities didn't exist? Would they still have found their way to college? As access and affordability become greater obstacles for underrepresented groups to gain entry into higher education, athletics provides an avenue that remains open for now. Now, I'll also call your attention to a document that's looks like this. It's about our scholar athlete celebrations. Now, there are some really heart-wrenching stories in here, and I want you to know that they've all allowed us to release the information. So we're not talking out of school. These are the young men and women who haven't become household names except within their own households. Many of them are first-generation collegians who used athletics as a springboard to move on. We have a diverse group, one that, if you think about the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, was a former Butte student athlete, had a 3.8 out of high school, could have gone anywhere, but came to us for some athletic skill development and then moved on. You have others that have gone from the point where they had difficulty out of high school and they couldn't qualify directly to a four-year college, so they came to us to remediate and were able to get scholarships after that. We have a number of challenges facing us. The current state budget crisis has had an impact on every aspect of education, and California Community College athletics and student athletes have felt the impact along with other on-campus programs. As an association, our board and membership have proactively engaged in cost containment initiatives while attempting to maintain quality experiences for student participants. The board has mandated reductions in maximum allowable contest, and we've reduced our contest across the board by about 4,000 individual contests, which equates to approximately $1.5 million in cost to our member colleges. The board has also held dues at the 07-08 levels, and for this fiscal year has reduced dues an additional 25%, all in an attempt to save money at the college level. Member college programs have placed travel limits and restricted the frequency of trips requiring overnight stays. Individual sports have reorganized their leagues to reduce travel distances and, where possible, have scheduled double headers to include both the men's and women's competitions at the same location, all in an effort to reduce cost. In spite of these efforts, since January of '09, colleges have eliminated some 42 sport teams. In addition to the fiscal challenges, the National Collegiate Athletic Association is engaged in academic reform in an attempt to improve their member colleges' success in moving their participants to graduate in higher numbers. Current data shows that the two-year college transfer has the most difficulty in progressing toward graduation. We are currently engaged in dialogue with the NCAA to identify possible reasons for the disparity and to determine ways to improve the academic success of the two-year college transfer. An area that has created some difficulty is in the reduction of class offerings at California community colleges, thereby making it more challenging for student athletes to secure the necessary transferable courses. We are currently finalizing an agreement with the California Partnership for Achieving Student Success to develop a tool that will allow us to have access to a statewide academic performance report for student athletes to assist us in evaluating the success of student athletes and assess and identify any need to address underperformance. In conclusion, California Community College athletic programs remain a vital and integral part of the overall collegiate experience within community colleges in California. Challenges to existing programs are being met by member colleges and the 3C2A through dues and cost reductions, austerity programs, and data gathering to assess problem areas and recommend possible policy changes to enhance academic success. Lastly, I would like to call your attention to the final document in your packet, and that we provide to every CEO in the California Community College system, and it's entitled, "What Does Every CEO Need to Know About Athletics?" Again, it's a bedtime reading if you choose to. There are a lot of complexities in the area of intercollegiate athletics, and in order to operate the program efficiently and effectively, we need our administrators and CEOs to properly oversee the programs. In closing, I would again like to thank you and members of the Board of Governors for the opportunity to come before you. And at this point, I want to entertain any questions you might have.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I learned, so thank you very much. A lot of interesting stuff. Any comments? Member Thomas and Member Baca?
Yes, thank you. You touched on my question briefly, and it's in the area of student success. I think I have my mic on. In the area of student success, could you elaborate just briefly on the kinds of things that athletic programs do currently to help promote and foster student success?
I'd be happy to. One of the problems we face in the budget shortfall is that many positions in the area of counseling have been cut or not retained. We were already in a situation where the specialty of academic advisors, academic counselors for athletics, because there are certain requirements that the NCAA has, depending on when you start college. If you are a full-time student, that first semester, that first fall after your high school graduation, there's something called the NCAA clock. And that clock is you have 5 years to get in 4 years' worth of eligibility, including the years at the community colleges. If you have a student that's an at-risk student that needs a significant amount of remediation, in some cases they may need 2 or 3 math and or English classes to get to a college degree applicable course. So how then are they able to meet that transfer requirements as their clock continues to tick? So you have 10 semesters or 15 quarters to get in 4 years of eligibility. So many of our colleges do have academic counseling programs for athletics. They may have someone in the academic counseling area that's been assigned an area of athletics. And in some cases, there may be 400 or 500 students that are participating in athletics, so you'll see that it's a difficult task. And to keep them on point and to be able to move them along through their remediation. Many of our schools don't have that. As a result, a counselor that's not specialized in the area of the courses that's necessary to transfer treats them like every other student. The other issue that we're facing is that with the reduction in courses, and all students are facing that, whether they're an athlete or a non-athlete, and if they're trying to transfer from a 2-year college in California to the CSUs or UCs, they're in a kind of a struggle because the timing may be off because they won't be able to have the course offerings. Many of our colleges have eliminated intersessions. They've eliminated summer sessions. And many of our student athletes would take summer session classes in order to fill in the gap of what they didn't get during the academic year. So we're hopeful that with our partnership with CalPass, that we'll be able to identify course-taking patterns. We'll be able to break it down by gender, by ethnicity, to determine where the problem areas are. That will give us a baseline, and then we will attack the problem from there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Member Baca?
Yeah, thank you for this information. It's great. This list of, the short list of notable individuals probably could be expanded quite a bit. I know Ivan Longoria played at Rio Hondo, and he's in the playing baseball in the major leagues. And then Mount Sac probably has 4 or 5 current NFL players that were alum. So, you know, we've got quite a list. I just often wonder how it is that maybe the system can use the support of these individuals to help with various things. So that's probably a discussion we could have had earlier with the foundation director, executive director. I think that sports is a great motivator. I think you point out well that the chances of actually getting on a list like this are pretty slim. So I think that being realistic is important, and attention to academics. But the question I had has to do with Title IX and women's sports. Could you comment a little bit about how you've seen that over the last few years progressing?
I'd love to. I've throughout my tenure, I've been in the business now 26 years, and I've always been an advocate for women's sports. And when I was in Minnesota, I was able to get a grant from the USOC, a $500,000 grant to start 10 women's ice hockey programs in Minnesota, which allowed for an expansion of opportunities for women. I'm pleased to report that 2 years ago, your community colleges passed the first membership criteria requiring that members be in compliance with Title IX in order to be able to take fully part in what we have to offer. Now, we're not a certifying agency. OCR does that. And what it was meant to do was to motivate our colleges to focus on the opportunities for women and to be in compliance with Title IX. Right now, there's no motivation to be in compliance. People can roll the dice. The chances of someone turning you in for a violation, and depending on which administration is in Washington, depends on what the focus is going to be. Now, the Obama administration has begun to renew the interest in equal access and opportunities for women. Most folks nowadays only think of Title IX when it relates to sports. And those of us who are old enough to remember when Title IX came on, athletics was an afterthought. It was being able to make sure that women had an equal footing with men in being admitted to colleges, that they had the ability to be admitted to graduate schools, equal pay for equal work. That's what Title IX started out to be. And the intercollegiate part was kind of an afterthought. Yes, we mean also equal access. And at that time, the sky was going to fall. It was going to be the beginning of the end for all football programs and all male programs in intercollegiate athletics. Well, that hasn't happened, and it's been some 37, 38 years. But we still need to have a lot of work to do. With the passage of that legislation within the 3C2A, the Women's Sports Foundation granted the association their highest award, and that's the Billie Jean King Award, because we're the first governing body in the country to tie membership in good standing with also compliance with Title IX. Now, many of our colleges will never be able to meet Test 1. There are 3 tests in Title IX that you can meet in order to be in compliance. Test 1 is proportionality, which means you have roughly the same percentage of women student athletes as you do in your student body. That's a proportionality test. The other one is a history of meeting the need. And the other one would be the situation in which you've surveyed the students and you've complied with those needs, or there isn't a need available. If you look at us from a proportionality standpoint, we're not doing that well. But in other areas, we are. And for this year, the first year that it's actually being implemented, we had a 2-year delay, I've seen a significant amount of movement when it comes to the interest in focusing more on the, Title IX and compliance with it.
Thank you. Member McDonald?
Carl, thank you very kindly for coming to speak to the board today. I deeply appreciate it. I've been watching your work for a couple of years now, and it's admirable. One of the things that you've done and you put into place was the program that you started with the NCAA to work with the transfers to the four-year universities. Where are you in that process right now?
Well, this past June, we were invited to Indianapolis to meet with the Division I Academic Cabinet as well as the NCAA Committee on Academic Performance. For 3 years, I've had a proposal in front of them that would allow some accommodation for the student athlete that needs remediation if they are attempting to better themselves. And they fully admit that basic skills, students that come in with basic skills are lacking. I think they readily admit that. So why not give them more time to better themselves, to have a chance to be better prepared, to have a chance of success? So the proposal that I put before them was that if a student has 50% or more of their full-time, 12 units in remedial courses, don't start the clock. Allow them to improve themselves academically. Having worked with the NCAA as a Division III commissioner, I know the inner workings of that organization. It's not the easiest organization to work with, but for the first time, I feel pretty confident in the next year we should see some legislation from them that will address this at-risk student. Unfortunately, many of them are from inner city schools and from rural schools where the performance of basic skills and how students come out of those institutions lacking the preparation. So I've got my fingers crossed, but I think we're well on our way to seeing some type of legislation come from them.
Thank you.
Member Baum, and then, I'm sorry. The Chancellor meant to speak first, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Well, first, I commend you, Carlisle. I've observed your work and appreciate it a great deal. And you and I have had conversations. There's just one or two little questions, just from the standpoint of information that I was interested in. If someone plays 2 years at a community college and transfers, how many years of eligibility do they have after that?
They have 2 years remaining.
That's all? Okay.
Yes.
So I can understand that that's a problem for the at-risk student, because it's going to be hard for them to get through college in 4 years. Yeah. I know that many individuals come to the community college because of their low SAT scores, or they couldn't, let's say they were not eligible for Berkeley, we'll use that as an illustration, but after going to a community college, what kind of academic success do they have to achieve in order to then transfer?
Well, right now, the academic standards are either have to have, depending on when you do transfer, if you're what they call a non-qualifier, the NCAA has initial qualification standards, and I don't want to go into it in great detail because it's kind of complex, and it just suffice it to say you have a student that has to get a certain GPA, grade point average in 17 core courses out of high school. They also have to have an SAT score or an ACT score that fits a minimum. Therefore, if they do meet that qualifying standard, they can enter a four-year institution, get an athletic scholarship, and compete right away. They used to have this thing called a partial qualifier, and that was someone who met part of the qualifications and some didn't meet others. Now, they've eliminated that. Consequently, many more students have come to us and the two-year level. There are 3 governing bodies in the country. One is the NJCAA, the National Junior College Athletic Association, which is the largest body, started by 5 California community colleges, I might add. We do not belong to that. We have our own governing association, which is the 3C2A. There's also another body in the Northwest called NWAC, which is the Northwest Athletic Community College Association. So in order to transfer, what the NCAA says, depending on what semester you transfer, you either have to have 40, 60, or 80% of your degree requirements satisfied at the four-year college. Consequently, four-year college recruiters are looking at a student based on what they have in the tank academically. And in many cases, the choice of major is taken away from them because depending on what school you're going to, they'll look at a transcript and say, okay, you can meet 40, 60, or 80% of this major degree requirements. Now, considering remedial classes don't transfer, they're not degree applicable, you can imagine how difficult it is for a student who's at risk to be able to meet that qualification. Now, if you get an AA degree, a 2.0, typically you're right in.
But if let's say, how many units do you have to complete? Let's say you finish 2 years, you played 2 years at a community college. You don't have an associate degree. How many, above remediation, how many units do you have to get in to say, let's say you're going to USC or Cal State or wherever?
Well, it would be dependent upon the institution you're going to and the number of degree applicable units that you've acquired. Because they're saying 40, 60, or 80% of the degree applicable units into what major. And with 14 point, what is it, Senate Bill 1440? Is that, am I thinking right?
You're right.
Okay. Where we're saying 60 or 90 units, you're immediately in, you're a junior. Okay, well, if you're in a 120 unit major, then 60 units, you're halfway there. What if you're in a 140 unit? Well, you're not quite halfway there. So it would depend on the major. Many are looking at.
And how fast you might run the 40?
Right. It's like, the saying is that, the guy went out and he was looking for a need-based aid student athlete. And it was because the coach needed a quarterback. So, it really all depends on your perspective. But understand the difficulties that our students are facing if they need a significant amount of remediation. That is why the proposal that I put before them would allow some type of an accommodation to give them more time. They fully admit, even their own students. We had a meeting with Condoleezza Rice in the summer, and you were the keynote speaker at that event, and she was in a meeting after that. And she's a faculty member at Stanford. And she admitted that even students that are going into Stanford are having difficulty writing. She had a paper that she had turned back to a student. It was all red ink. And the student said to her, "I thought you were reading for content, not style." She indicated, "I speak 3 languages. This isn't in any of them." So you have even students that are very difficult institutions to get into are having difficulty with their basic skills. So we want to provide more time for our kids to be able to take advantage of what we can do at our level and prepare them better for the next level.
Board Member Baum and then Davis Lyman.
I have a couple of points I want to make. First, by way of background, I'm on the board at Pasadena City, and I work at USC. So I'm affiliated with 2 institutions that have long heritage in...
I'm not from the NCAA, by the way.
Okay. So
Thank you for that
the thing
comment.
that but I have to convince on my board, on my colleagues on my board, that some believe, why do community colleges need intercollegiate athletics? We visited a campus a year ago, Lake Tahoe Community College, doesn't have an intercollegiate athletic program. They seem to be doing just fine. And picking up on Board Member Thomas's question, you asked, she asked what intercollegiate athletics do to enhance student success, not just for the athletes, but the whole campus. And you went on to talk about the barriers to success because of budget cuts. But I think that, and I want to get to a point for us as a policy-making body what would you like us as a board to consider on a policymaking role? But I really need you to help me when I'm at my local board or others to say, why do intercollegiate athletics contribute to student success, not just for the athletes involved, and then, but also the campus as a whole? And then a policy issue that I've been concerned about lately is many of our intercollegiate athletic programs seem to be more of a magnet for out-of-state students who don't have programs so that they can get some playing time to transfer, and have lost track of the importance of in-state students and the focus on that. So what I liked about the pamphlet you passed out by Diane Van Hook was very good, and I hope that each CEO does get it and read it. But on the second page, on the very bottom, it puts the boxed item, are the coaches more concerned with wins or academic success of your student athletes? We all want to have competitive programs, but are they truly being pushed to be more vehicles for student success, or are they just focused on academic wins? So I would say, what do you want from us as a governing board, but also how can you articulate why an intercollegiate athletic program contributes to student success?
Well, in many cases, I would say that some of those students wouldn't be at your campus, be exposed to higher education, if it were not for them being motivated, as I was, to play sports. We shouldn't care why they come to us. Once they get to us, it's what we do with them. The worst loss that I can think of is the loss of a student. Because someone has a number of wins, it's not real impressive to me. It's the ones that they lose. It's the student athletes that we lose. We have some students that come to us that can ill afford to lose. They've already outlived many of their classmates. They come from conditions that none of us in this room would find acceptable. And they're on a college campus. And it's incumbent upon us to shed the light on that student that there's something other than athletics. We don't want you to set aside your dreams of being successful athletically, but understand the numbers don't lie. You know, if you've got a million, 1.1 million football players and only 250 of them get drafted, keep your dream alive. But what are you going to do if, in fact, in your first practice at the 4-year level, you have a career-ending injury? What's going to happen? We want you to be successful. We want to open your eyes to other avenues besides sports. Use it. I would say from a value standpoint, the parents of the students at Antelope Valley that got $1.5 million in athletic scholarships, that means something to them. And the value of the athletic program at Antelope Valley meant something to them when they may not have had another opportunity elsewhere. As far as what the board can do, I want to be able to come back to you with an academic performance report to show what's going on within our community colleges. Where can we do things better? How can we provide more services, which is a bad thing right now. We're having trouble paying for the services that we have. But we have a segment. We've got 27,000 men and women out there that are participating in sports on an annual basis. We want to continue to provide that. You spoke about a number of out-of-state students that are coming to California. And one of the things we communicated with the chancellor's office on is this whole idea of residency and making sure that those who are coming from out of state for college, this idea that all you have to do is be here for 6 months or a year and you can become an in-state resident and benefit from California's generosity by paying in-state tuition. That's not the case. That's not what the Ed Code says. Okay? We do have a number of students that come to us for opportunities, especially in the sport of football, because many of the two-year colleges outside of California have eliminated sport programs, have eliminated football programs. And personally, I think that's relatively short-sighted. Now, in the past, when there's been down years and colleges were looking for students, we used the rationale that athletic programs is a means of bringing students to campus, especially males, because of the difference between the percentages. We can't use that anymore. We have to have better rationale to support our athletic programs. Many of our folks who have been through this economic downturn, maybe for the third time, they seem to think that, this is just another cycle. And I've tried to point out that it's not another cycle. That what we come out of this one, it may change the face of education in the state of California at the 2-year level forever. So we need to focus. We need to provide more balance between our programs so that the student and student athlete counts for something, that students are taking more hardcore academic units and not loading up on, I'm a physical education major, so I can say that, PE classes, because we really need to have our students get better at what they do academically, reading and writing, mathematics, science, so that they can have a chance of being successful at the next level. If we provide you with more information to be able to advocate for this extracurricular program, many of our coaches are faculty that teach physical education. The idea of eliminating physical education classes or reducing physical education classes is going to impact our athletic programs. I'm in the area of athletics, but I will tell you that we keep a close eye on what's going on in physical education because that's going to impact our programs.
Thank you. Member Davis-Lyman.
Thank you. Thanks for being here again, Mr. Carter. And I appreciate Member Baum's remark about what can we do about student success. And you're mentioning academic advisors, athletic advisors. When there are organized programs with study halls and follow-up with students, that really does lead to their success. And there is some research behind that in the field of athletics at American River College. They were looking for what groups succeed the most. Who gets the most degrees, transfers? What are those groups? And what they found out, not only was it the athletic program, but it also was EOP&S. Now, you don't have to be Fellini to figure that one out. They have counselors there. They have a group of students. It really is like a learning community. It has those components that even outside athletics and other things lead to student success. It's students helping students, but there is an organized program. So I appreciate you mentioning the academic athletic counselors because they are a key element when athletes succeed and transfer. And maybe we can replicate that kind of research or find out on other campuses if that's the same thing that's happening. But it's very effective.
Well, we do have, all the meetings that I attend, there's a lot of anecdotal data out there about how well we're doing and how much better our student athletes are doing than the non-student athlete population. It's anecdotal. Our work with CalPass should be able to pull out the student athlete cohort and gauge that against the non-student athlete population in terms of their course taking patterns, their retention, their ability to get AA degrees. And also CalPass has the ability to follow them to the four-year colleges, and we can find out if, in fact, they are succeeding at the next level, which is important.
Member Perez.
I just want to thank you for coming today. I think this is a very important topic. I've seen a lot of kids that have benefited from athletic programs in high school as well as in junior college and in four-year. And oftentimes, one of my sons was a product of it in high school, where if he had not been involved in football, it would have been doubtful if he would have been able to academically achieve graduation because he was so challenged with school itself. And going on to a junior college has helped him as well because, again, he has that foundation of support where I believe if he was not in the athletics department, he might not have that type of support that he needs as a student to be successful. The other thing is, I mean, just from a board's perspective, I mean, one of the things I would say is where I've seen students, they may enter because of their academic ability, but they are also going to learn a skill set because in order to stay in what they're passionate about, in order to participate, they have to do well academically. And as long as we provide the resources and foundation for them to be successful, unbeknownst to them, they're going to get a degree and they're going to be able to graduate. The other thing is, from a sports, team, it's communication, it's teamwork, it's collaboration, it's all those skills that they learn as being part of a team, where an individual performer that goes to class and gets an A and does well academically, they're not necessarily learning those skills of how to participate in a team, which is going to help them be successful when they get into a workforce. But I do have a question for you, because I know, at least I think I know, so correct me if I'm wrong, but if a student gets a scholarship to a university, they can actually have 5 years to complete their degree. They can redshirt for a year, and then they can play for 4 years, but they actually have a 5-year period. But what I understood you to say was that if they come from community college, they can do 2 years there, and they only have 2 years left to complete their degree. Is that accurate? Do they not have the same option to redshirt 1 year, or do they just have to go in, or do they have the opportunity to have 5 years?
No, the question, I think, was related to how many years could they play. They still only get 4 years to play.
Okay.
There's an academic clock, which is the 5 years to participate in 4 years, and there's also athletic eligibility. You only get 4 years of athletic eligibility. If you use up 2 years at the 2-year level, you only have 2 years left.
Okay.
And to be quite honest, 4-year coaches aren't recruiting 2-year college student athletes to sit.
Right.
Most of the recruiters that come to us are looking for a quick fix.
Yeah.
They're looking for someone who's going to step on the field and play right away. And they're counted on to play right away. And the one thing that we really haven't talked about is acclimatization. If you went to college and it was your first time away from home, you had to make decisions on your own. You had the social adjustment you had to make. You had the academic adjustment that you had to make. And if you're an athlete, you've got a real change in store. Most of the kids that go right into 4-year colleges, they were the BMOC, big man on campus, at the high school level. Okay, they had been coddled from the time that someone could recognize that they had athletic ability. Then they get to a Division I school, a Division I. There are 3 divisions in the NCAA. The Division I, the USCs, UCLAs, Division IIs, typically your state schools, and then the small liberal arts colleges. The Division Is are the ones with the 100,000-seat stadiums and the coaches with the $10 million per year contracts, and the millions of dollars that they're looking to get in revenue. When you step on that campus, even though you were a star in high school, you're now just a fish in the pond, just a fish. And as you go up, it gets tougher and tougher. So there's an adjustment period that has to take place. The beauty of the 2-year colleges is that you can stay at home, maybe keep your high school job, the job that you had in high school. You're in that familiar surroundings of home. You've got a support group, hopefully, at home. You can get adjusted to academic work at the college environment because you have smaller class sizes. When I went to Penn State, I had an accounting class, and the professor was in a TV studio, and there were probably 10 classrooms around the campus. At a community college, you don't have that situation. You get to know the name of the faculty member that's in front of the class. And it's not typically an international student. I have nothing against international students, but teaching assistants at 4-year colleges, large, if you've taken classes, you know that you don't get that engagement that you get at the 2-year level. that one-on-one, that look in your eye, and find out if you're paying attention or if you need help. That's going to get them to bridge the gap between what they didn't get out of high school and what they need to get in order to be successful in college. And that's what the two-year colleges are all about. You can also find out a little bit about yourself from a social environment. First time, you're not really under the bell thing, and you meet students from other areas. That social adjustment. Athletically, you get to make an adjustment from high school to college so that when you go to the four-year college, it's not such a culture shock. Academic and educational environments, it's important for you to be comfortable so that you can achieve. If you're not comfortable, you're going to have difficulty. And our two-year colleges help the student become more comfortable so that they can make a successful transition to the four-year level.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you very much. You filled in a lot of information, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I hope to be invited back. We can give you an update.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Very good. We will move on to the next item. I'm turning my page. Item 4.3, the 2010-11 state budget update. I wonder what could be new on that front. Executive Vice Chancellor Eric Skinner.
All right, well, this should be a fairly brief update. Unfortunately, there's not a lot more progress to report than there was at the last time we had a meeting. But I did want to kind of step through a little bit of the latest information, and then maybe more importantly, share some information what we're hearing from colleges in terms of how this late budget is impacting their operations. So, at the current juncture, we're still in an impasse. The end of the session came and went without closure on the 2010-11 state budget, and so the negotiations continue. I would say that in terms of some of the more recent dynamics, I think it's notable that there's been less public discord probably over the last couple weeks than we'd seen for a while. It gives me some optimism. Governor Schwarzenegger is in the middle of a planned trip to China and some other countries on a trade mission, and I think it's notable that legislative. I haven't picked up criticism coming from the legislature, particularly from Democratic leaders. In the past, under these circumstances, that would be fairly predictable that there'd be criticism for leaving the state when there's still work to be done here. The fact that Democratic leaders have actually gone out of their way to indicate that the governor will, given modern technology, can continue to have negotiations even when he's abroad, as Speaker Perez stated to the press, I think is indicative that there's seems to be some goodwill at the current time. But that said, there's no budget, and we're 77 or maybe I forget how many days into the fiscal year. I guess it would be pushing 80 days here, and clearly the state leaders are overdue in terms of getting that spending plan in place. There are a couple of other recent developments that I'd like to just quickly point to that, again, I think give some optimism for the ability of state leaders to come together, or hopefully in the near future. One is that the Legislative Analyst's Office came up with a tax swap plan. It's actually a variation on a plan previously proposed by Democratic leaders that would increase the personal income tax and the vehicle licensing fee, and reduce state sales tax in a manner that is neutral to California taxpayers. But because of the treatment of these various taxes under federal tax law, essentially what it'll do is result in Californians sending less money to Washington in their federal taxes, and sending less to Washington and sending more to Sacramento. The net effect is neutral, but it's beneficial to the state's fiscal position. So that's about $1 billion in solution that's been identified. So far I haven't seen Republican leaders weighing in officially as to whether or not they'd be supportive of that, but I think at least has the potential to be a middle ground kind of proposal. There are some discussions underway to borrow against the PERS fund. Again, just another one of those ideas that's on the table that conceivably could be part of a middle ground, particularly if part of that package was identifying some future savings that the state could achieve through reforms to public pensions. So, again, it just, when you see a lack of acrimony, so it seems like the parties are trying to get along. You see some new ideas and new options being thrown on the table. At least it gives me a source of some optimism that they may be able to come to an agreement following the governor's return from China. That said, the state budget is always a complex negotiation, particularly these days. And when you've got a negotiation like that going on, there are always more potential ways it can fail than it can go right. It's just the reality. So time will tell. I would say that everything we're hearing is that the community colleges continue to be held in high regard and are viewed as a priority, given all that the colleges are doing during these times to step up and provide the education and training that Californians need. There's an awareness of that public policy value that we're adding, and how we're improving Californians' lives. And so I think as long as we continue to be perceived in that positive way, I think it'll ensure that we get the best possible outcome we can out of the state budget process. I did mention in terms of impacts on the local colleges of the late budget, since July 1st, we've been, actually, there was one payment that went out to colleges in mid-July. There were actually some 2009-10 monies that were deferred into the following year. But with the exception of that, we've been unable to send out any funding to the colleges since the beginning of the fiscal year. And so at this particular time, we've missed a July payment of about $118 million. We missed an August payment of about $275 million, or $277 million. And then we have another scheduled payment that's coming up at the end of September, as the Chancellor noted before, on September 28th. That's one of the larger payments of the year at about $447 million. So if a budget doesn't come together by the end of September, that represents about 15% of community colleges' funding that's been held up due to the state budget. And at that point, I began having some real serious concerns of the potential that we'll start to see some cracks, and we'll see some districts that go from, every district is in distress now. I think it's fair to say every district is being inconvenienced and is facing serious fiscal challenges. At some point, if this continues, though, we're going to see more dramatic failure. And we'll see there's I think a strong potential if we move into October without a budget. We could, it would not surprise me to see a community college or two demonstrate fiscal stress to the point of being unable to meet payroll or some other kind of more dramatic effect. The colleges are doing a really tremendous job of kind of weathering the storm and keeping most of the difficulty, most of the fiscal distress under the surface, and they're doing their best to communicate to their employees and their students and their local public that they're continuing on, and that they are operating in a sound and effective way. But at some point, the absence of the state budget is going to undermine their ability to function to such a serious extent that they will, some more dramatic evidence of that fiscal stress is going to present itself. It's a matter of time. So we're hoping that state leaders can come together on a budget sometime this month, at this particular juncture, we have not been informed or notified by any particular district that they are at threat of imminent collapse. But I think when I've been asked this question by state leaders, by staff, by the press, what I try to emphasize to them is that that unfortunately we're not going to get a lot of forewarning if a district goes down, because districts are in real time right now negotiating a number of solutions. They're developing plans C, D, E, and F to make sure that they don't collapse, so that they don't miss payroll. And they will be brokering those kind of deals. They'll be talking with their counties trying to borrow money. They'll be talking with their lawyers about what kind of internal borrowing, maybe perhaps what special funds that they've never tapped before that they might be able to tap this year, given the difficulties. They'll be talking to everybody they can to try to either, to beg or borrow to get through this. And it's only when that kind of brinksmanship fails at some point for a district that will, unfortunately, the chancellor will get a phone call. The story will break in the local press. However that's going to play out, and that'll be a very disturbing event if that occurs. First and foremost for those students and for that community, but then I think for all of us. So that's the situation we're monitoring, and again, I think that there's this window when the governor comes back from his trip that we're all going to be watching closely to see the signs, and hopefully we get some positive word about an agreement coming out of the Big Five.
Thank you. So my question is, since the governor's coming back later this week, just to pick a day, if they said a week from today they're back in session or extra session to approve a budget, how fast can that process really work?
I think conventional wisdom is that once the agreement has been reached, staff usually need 3 or 4 days to turn around all the detail, to get it into bill form, something that they can get votes on, put on the floor and get some votes. And then the governor typically needs at least another 2 or 3 days after that in order to review the document, make vetoes. I think both those time frames, those are optimistic time frames on both counts. So even at this time, even if on Friday there was an announcement that the deal was struck, I think we would still be pushing into record territory, which is September 23rd was the latest budget in state history. And so at this point, I think that they'd be hard pressed to beat that date. So I think we're probably, unfortunately, going to set state history in terms of the latest budget California's ever seen.
And if things do move along quickly, I'm thinking about the September 28th date that we're supposed to send out our large payment. If things are passed just very close to that date, and we're going to be sending, how quickly can we send out that check, I guess is my question. Let's say they do approve it September 27th.
The answer is very quickly. We have our payment schedules queued up, ready at the controller's office. The controller's ready and motivated to push the button and send those out. It's all electronic these days, so it can happen very quickly.
So when we read in the news the governor signs the budget, we'll know perhaps the next day the money's out to our colleges.
Right, and whether it's the next day or within 2 or 3 days, I'm not sure, but the controller will give us clarification on what his ability to turn it around is. But in the past, it's been in that time frame. He's again, he's a publicly elected official. He knows the stakes of this. He knows that schools and colleges and health clinics and lots of other people are under, facing significant challenges. And so it's really been admirable in terms of, the way he's operated to act efficiently when we've had some kind of earlier experiences like this. So I think it'll be quite rapid.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions or comments from the board? Member Haley?
As we continue to hear and struggle with the budget, and as the board sits here as representatives and concerned persons for the colleges and all of the employees at the college, I just think it's pretty terrific that the faculty and the classified employees, the employees that keep these places running, have really withstood this tough time and without blowing up. I guess wise minds are saying, what are we going to blow up about? There's no money. But the truth of the matter is, as a board member, speaking for the board, if I might, want to applaud the employees, the faculty and the classified staff, the administration, the presidents, all of them, for the stamina that it's got to be taking for them to keep getting up every morning and not knowing if they're going to have a budget and going to have a check to come in the mail.
Absolutely. That's true. Thank you. Absolutely. Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you for your report.